What's going on? Why is it? Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to Inside the Game, episode number
It's time to wake up.
41. And I don't know if you hear that or not. There is an alarm clock going outside. Oh my goodness!
9 a.m.
It might
time to
not
wake
go
up.
off. I might.
Is that in your house or my house? I don't even know.
It's here, dude.
It's here. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
okay.
here. I don't know what to make of it, dude.
Does Nate have to wake up? Is it time?
Yeah.
Oh, it is Monday. All right. Yeah, you
setting
go.
off. We're
You
back.
go. I'll address that. I'll address the fans here for a second. So, welcome back on Inside the Game. It's our first edition since the Tuesday episode. Appreciate you guys stopping back in. Here's the thing. The reason why we didn't have a show until Tuesday. It takes a lot of work, a lot of times to get a co-host on the show, especially day after day. It's interesting is people don't really think about how much work it takes to get a show up every single day. So, JT tried to line a few people up, but I was down in South Bend doing public address announcing for the NAI National Swimming and Diving Championships. I've been doing public address for swim down there for the last couple of years. Last year it was the KCAC Conference Championship. This year it was the NAI National Championship. So it's funny, though, because swim in a lot of ways is kind of resemblant of you figure out where the alarm was coming from.
Yeah, we have we have these new clocks, digital clocks for our studio. We have one for each time zone, and I guess when we were setting the clocks to be all the different time zones, I guess someone clicked the alarm button and then there you go. So
we put it in Central Time. All right. Well, I was talking about the NAI Swimming and Diving National Championships, but it reflects soccer in a lot of ways because swimming is one of those things that other parts of the world oftentimes does a lot better than we do. Now, we have the greatest, I think Ledecky and Michael Phelps probably will go down as the greatest swimmers of all time. So we still lay claim to the greatest of all time. But in a lot of different places in the world, they're actually very, 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 very good at swimming. And so during this tournament, we had a lot of different players or swimmers rather, from Lithuania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Poland, France, all over the place. And I took a lot out of that experience, but I actually took one kind of memory away from it. And it's funny because in all these videos we've made about the U.S. men's national team competing on the international level, a lot of times when you hear soccer brought up in the United States, Europeans will take their first opportunity to kind of jump on it because they realize that that's, if anything, that's the one thing they kind of have over us. There's a lot of sports that they're getting better at, but we've always kind of been the standard. Like we've talked about basketball and hockey. We're right up there with Canada with being one of the best and this, that, swim and soccer and some of these other, I wouldn't call them off-brand sports. And soccer isn't an off-brand sport. Neither is swimming. I mean, it's an Olympic sport. What's up, Peter? There's a lot of European kids that participate. And so I know, JT, you would probably appreciate this, but there was one event, and I think it was the men's 100-yard butterfly. And so typically the way it works in swim is you'll have a morning session, right? So those are prelims, so all those are timed, right? So depending on where those times are is when you're going to be seated for the final event come the finals. And so they had, I think it was like 4 or 5 different heats for this particular event, whatever. And when you finish in the top, you get to choose what you want your walk-up song to be for that final. And so we do all the prelims and whatever. And so the kid comes up to me, and his name is Noel the Goose, right? So clearly he's not American. And I can hear through his accent that he's not American. I think he was from France. He had to be from France. especially with his twisted sense of humor. I'll get to that part in a second here. But he walks up and he wants his walk-up song to be God Bless America. And I'm like, okay, interesting. I don't know where he's going with this. Clearly he's not from America, but all right, God Bless America. You got it. And so I play it for his walk-up song, and apparently I hear the next day I talked to his coach. He goes, you know why he chose that song? I'm like, no. He goes, he chose it because there wasn't a single American in that final.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
So he chose God Bless America in the heartland of the U.S. in Elkhart, Indiana. So I thought that was interesting, but yeah, it was, man, was it exhausting. And I'll tell you what, we talk about inside the game. A lot of people get, play-by-play mixed up with public address announcing. Two different beasts, two different stories. And it was a lot of work over that stretch of days, but as I said, happy it's over. But it was fun getting to spend the time with people from different parts of the world. I mean, I was sitting in the room and the ready room, the waiting room while we were in between events. And I mean, I was talking to people. One was from Hungary, one was from Italy, the other one was from Brazil. I mean, it's really fascinating. And, I know we've talked about the World Cup coming up in 2026 and what that might look like and some of the stuff we may be doing. And that's like, it's part of the reason why I think maybe soccer is such a beautiful game, because it's the same exact way. And one of the people that was helping out at the event, great photographer, his name is actually Thiago da Silva. And he is a part of the men's soccer team. He's from Brazil. And he's played professionally in Brazil at some higher levels. And he's actually talked about how he has some contacts that are actually personal friends with Neymar. They know him personally. So got a lot of connections in the world of soccer. And he actually had the opportunity to sit down with me, and he was actually talking about how he's actually been trying to convince a lot of the people from home that soccer in the U.S. isn't a joke. And it was interesting to hear it from his perspective, because he's like, even in the NAIA, he goes, I've played in professional levels back home in Brazil. And then I come over here and, I play the likes of Indiana Tech and Aquinas and all these other schools. And he's like, there's talent here. Yeah, I like a lot of them, and some of them aren't maybe from the United States, but the brand of soccer in the U.S. is not bad. It's not what people tell you it is. It's very good. And there's, for a lot of these kids too, just the opportunity to come to the United States, first and foremost, is the biggest part. The other part is, yeah, they still get to continue playing the game of soccer, but it's, I kind of told them about what our mission was, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, we're just trying to elevate soccer at least that little bit, so that we can continue to get better and maybe one day compete on the same level internationally as some of these other countries. Like, culture-wise, we're not there. And he would tell me about, the professional teams there and the theatrics that surround soccer around the world are amazing. I find it fascinating that those stadiums allow flares into the stadium. I don't think there's a single American stadium anywhere that will allow that. Maybe like a Detroit City FC or something, but I don't, any of the major stadiums, I don't ever see that happening. But it's a different world over there. And I remember watching it, and I'm like, yeah, Thiago, I'm like, we talk about bringing it to that next level here in the U.S., but I mean, these people are clinically insane that are going to these soccer games in some other parts of the world, including Brazil. So, we're getting there, but it's just the American fan is not, and I think some of it has to do with we've priced real fans out of going to games. We can certainly talk about that. I think I think that's part of it. I think in some situations, a lot of times that the people who are attending these games they're corporate sponsors, and they're people who are paying a lot of money to be there. And whereas in places like Brazil, sometimes, you have just your regular Joe and Jane who are coming out to the game, who are spending the 15 minutes before the game coordinating what, the fan formations are going to be and what they're going to do to welcome the team on. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. But there are even international kids over here playing in the U.S. that are like, I don't want to go home, number one. And I think when people who are born in the United States fantasize about how nice it would be to live in this country or that country, it's a fantasy, JT. That's what it is. It's a fantasy. Okay. If I move over there, or if I go here, or if I go there, life would be so much better. It's just terrible here. Again, it's a fantasy. You talk to any of these kids from Hungary, Italy, Brazil, they're like, I'm not going home. You kidding me? No, when I graduate, I get to choose what I want to do. If I go home, I do what mom and dad did. That's how that works. Okay, your family is your carpenters or your farmers. That's what you do. But he's like, it's tough to think about staying here in the United States, because is there that opportunity to move up at least in the game of soccer? In the professional world, there is. But where do you go from here, after he's done playing at the college level? So I know I said a lot in that 10-minute stretch, but it's just it's interesting. It's interesting stuff to think about.
Yeah, a couple things. One, I think it's really cool that you had a chance to be able to do that this week, right? And partake in that event and be a part of that. We talk about this, a lot. Maybe not on our show, but I know I've talked about people around the world that we're in, and family and friends, and my wife. I think it's hard to use the word immigrant, but my wife came in here from Brazil, she's been here for over 20 years. Her family, right? They obviously went through a visa process to get here because of a work thing that her father was working at the time, and I wouldn't put Brazil, in a category of like, if you're leaving Brazil to come to America, maybe for a better life. I mean, I think there's an argument there. I again, depending upon part of the world you're talking about, there are parts of the world where, coming to the United States would be definitely a level up, right? And there's other parts of the world where maybe coming to the United States would maybe be equal in a lot of ways, right? And just based on your current circumstances, right? If you're extremely wealthy, that maybe that's relative, right? Obviously, there are a lot of kids, a lot of young adults and families coming to the United States for a second chance at a better life, right? Or that, and athletics is one of those ways to get them here, right? If you watch movies like Bend It Like Beckham, what did the main character do? She was coming they were both coming here to the United States to play collegiate soccer. I believe they were playing for Santa Clara, if I'm not mistaken, in the movie. They're coming here for a better opportunity, right? They're coming here for. College was going to be the way for them. And at that time, women's soccer was not a big deal, right? in the United Kingdom, but it was and is here. Here's the thing. I just saw Landon Donovan talking about this the other day, Nathan, with Tim Howard. Both those players played for the U.S. men's national team, did so for a long time, and did so very, very successfully, right? Both of them were talking about blowing this whole thing up, about how it's not working. They were the ones talking about that. Now, you've got two players who played in the U.S. men's national team telling you that it's not working, right? Mm-hmm. There's no other players on earth that have a more, I guess, of a background, of experience, of a number of factors that are that could say what they're saying and it actually means something, right? So when you talk about that, yeah, we have talent. There's no question we've got talent. The American baseball player has a lot of talent, but what is the best culture in the world for baseball? It's not necessarily in America, right? Japan. Where is it? Japan. Where else? There's other places, right? There's you think about Hispanic, right? And Latinos, right? There's a tremendous amount of baseball being played right now. What in Venezuela, South America, right? Up and down, right? North America, right? I don't know if it's Costa Rica. It's got great baseball players, but there's a ton of players. And to be fair, they are really, really good.
Yeah.
The superstars are coming out of those areas. And why is that? Because in those small countries, it's like ingrained in their cultures. Life. It's a way of life.
Yeah.
So we talk about what happens in the UK, right? Well, UK, I mean, again, small, and there's a lot of talented players there, and a lot of players come out of the United Kingdom, out of England, that are just phenomenal, right? Spain and Argentina, right? I mean, we can go down the list. We have talent. We have talent.
Yep.
No doubt. No doubt we've got talent. But what are we doing with it? Right? We talked about that. What are we doing with this talent? What are we doing with how we cultivate it? How we I don't say manipulate it, but how we could use a lot of different words to describe it, but how are we able to
develop it?
Develop it. And that's the biggest challenge. And someone made a great point, I think, through one of our TikTok comments about how it's not so much about it's identifying it. Our biggest struggle in the United States is identifying it. I actually argue that that's not it. I actually believe our issue is figuring out the right pieces to fix into it's a puzzle. Coaching is a puzzle. You have to take these different pieces and find a way to make them work together, right? We've talked about culture. We've talked about foundation. We've talked about all these other things. And there's a lot of intangibles that go into this. It isn't always about the best player. It's about the right player. You need the right player, right? And so that's the biggest challenge. And with a geographical area as large as the United States, you're going to have a hard time doing that. But here's something I want to talk about today. Me and you were just talking about respect, even though we didn't really talk about it. You have a player, swimmer. I only call him player. Peter asked this question: how can we copy what they're doing right? This is I've said this before. You can't copy it. We can't copy it. You can take a play out of their playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We talked about who here's played Madden and taken Bill Belichick's playbook and put it in the Lions playbook. It doesn't work, man. It doesn't work. You can't take the full playbook and put it in and see if it makes sense. It just
I can't run the triple option with Jared Goff, unfortunately.
Well, again, every system is designed to work for those players.
Yeah.
So if you say, how do we copy it? Well, you can't.
No.
Now you can take things that you like, right? I like that. I like this. I take a training regimen, take this, but you can't copy it. And if you do, then is it yours? And then when you do end up winning, what are they going to say? Well, it wasn't even your plan. It was our plan. So it doesn't even count. You don't want that. You want to take a variation of all the things that are out there in the world and create your own version of it and make it work within a system that makes sense. Our biggest challenge is players. I keep saying this to before, and I love soccer. I've loved it my entire life. It's in my inner core. I mean, my whole family is involved in soccer because of this. It is ingrained in me to my very core. It's probably in my DNA. If you could test my DNA here, you'd probably see there's a soccer balls within my the nuclei, or you'd probably see them there. Okay. The reality is that. And I'm going to say this, probably very controversial. It's about money. You need to find kids who don't have it. You need to find parents who aren't paying up the wazoo to have their kids play soccer. You need to find the kid who is working their ass off when nobody's paying attention, and it isn't about getting the college scholarship like the way that the college scholarships are given out today. It's that's the kid you're looking for. That's the player you're looking for. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be kids out there that, in spite of all those things, but the kid that has to work extra hard to get that scholarship, the kid that doesn't have the money, the kid that, the resources just aren't there, but are just like when no one's looking, they're working their tail off. Like that's the kid you want. That's the kid the United States of America needs on the pitch. And if you can find that kid, they're out there. They're out there. Go find them. I know MLS Next, you don't pay, right? But in order to get that opportunity, you have had to have been seen in some club environment. You have to be seen. And that takes money. I mean, and again, I don't want to be disingenuous to club soccer and to all the parents out there that are, putting their kids in a place where they can be seen. But
no,
those kids are being given these opportunities when there are kids out there that are not.
You made the point when we were talking to Dean Linke, and I actually found it was ironic because it was one of our best posts that we've had in a while on social media. I mean, it caught on, and you were telling him about are we missing out on the next great American soccer player because we're not focused on those communities. right? We're not going into the trenches. Peter says there are plenty of kids born with talent, but the money is hiding and keeping that out of talent. I agree. You're not going.
No, go ahead.
You're not going into those areas to find these kids. As Dean Linke was talking about, it's not as much player development; it's player identification. And there was a comment underneath, and again, I can never tell with modern day social media what's a troll job and what's a genuine response to something. I really can't. Right, because if you're parading around with a fake profile picture and a username that's clearly not you, I don't know whether or not you're being serious or whether or not you're not being serious, and that's why it's important in social media to not take things personally, because you're never really quite sure whether or not that person is just trying to get a rise. Right, the kids call it rage bait nowadays. You say something outrageous so that people are drawn to your comment, so that they're drawn to your page, so that, it's just about getting more attention. It's more prevalent. It's more of a disease on X than it is on anything else. But there was one comment under this that listed 2 or 3 soccer players that had come from rich families. He got one of them dead wrong. He said Messi was from a rich family. He was not. I think his dad was a steel mill worker. I think his mom was either stay at home or part-time doing nanny work. I don't know. Messi did not come from a rich family. But if we look at some of the greatest to ever play this game, and there's a 2019 documentary, and I have meant to watch it, and I'm probably going to watch it at some point this week, about rags to riches in the game of soccer. But Messi grew up dirt poor. Neymar grew up dirt poor. Ronaldo grew up dirt poor. There are a list. Pele grew up dirt poor.
Father was a janitor. He was going to go the janitor route, right? I would call it janitor, custodian, but janitor, mother. I mean, they couldn't get the basic necessities. That movie, by the way, if you haven't watched it, there's a couple of different versions of Pele's life, but that one, it's actually, I think, on Netflix, but it's really good.
It's fascinating.
There's something about this. And if you ever talk about anyone that grew up in any inner city in this country, right, where they came from nothing, there's a pride about that. There's this humility.
There's a hunger,
right? You ever watch The Pursuit of Happiness, right? You've got Will Smith and that gentleman. There's this scene where this father is holding his child in a bathroom with no money, in a train station in San Francisco, and coming from nothing, working his ass off, even when everyone is telling him he's garbage, right? And there's nothing more emasculating when you think about a husband, a father whose spouse says these things, and you're having to deal with all that, right? And then you're going out there and trying to be successful. There's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
And it's not every kid. I'm not saying that there aren't kids and players out there that aren't able to rise above some of that and create their own pathway. But there's an entitlement in this country. There's an entitlement in this world. You think you are owed something. And we've talked about it before. You're not owed anything. And the kid that comes from an environment where they had to work extra hard than the person before them and the one next to them to rise above it. I mean, that is something that you cannot teach. It is something that's instilled in you. It's a passion. It's a grind. It's a lot of different things that we can explain in different ways. And that's the player that, if we want to win World Cups, going to have to come from. Look at Christian Pulisic is a great player. Great player. Right. He grew up a little bit here in Michigan for a bit, right? Grew up in the Pittsburgh area, East Coast, New Jersey, whatever. His dad played for the Detroit Rockers back in the day, part of the, I think, MISL back then. And he comes from money, right? He comes from money, and he's making a shit ton of it now, right? Playing where he's playing. Is Christian Pulisic a phenomenal player? There's no doubt. Is Christian Pulisic the future of our country? I don't think so. And I think he's a great player. Landon Donovan was a great player. I have no idea what Landon Donovan's background is, but Landon Donovan, great player. Do you know who's a really good player for the United States Women's National Team? Hope Solo. She came from nothing. She talks about it. Her dad was living in the woods as homeless. She talks about it in her documentary. Great goalkeeper, probably one of the greatest goalkeepers U.S. women's national team history. You got Brianna Scurry in there, but I would argue the Hope Solo was probably, again, a lot of goalies have to be a little wacky, right? I'm a goalkeeper. I can say that.
Well, you're wacky yourself, so you fit the bill.
But I again, and I didn't want to necessarily talk about this morning, but I think it's important to say these things, that we have to continue to talk about this, because it's the case, and hey, if we can go out there and win with a bunch of players that come from varying degrees of backgrounds, great.
Yeah, we're not talking down about people who come from resources. I mean, that's you clearly it's come from somewhere, and you have the opportunity to put your kids in really good positions and go out and play. That's not what we're talking about. That's to be frank, that's not. It has nothing to do with you guys. What we're doing here, I think it has a lot to do with what you were referencing right when we began the show, in Landon Donovan and Tim Howard and what they were talking about blowing it up. Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with, again, just player identification. Like, if you go to Los Angeles, like an open park where there's like 3 or 4 soccer games going on, and they're kids who are younger aged. I mean, they're maybe high school or before high school, and they're out there, crossing dudes up. Why do we not have someone from U.S. Soccer who are just going to maybe some of the ugliest places, the poorest, most deprived places in the U.S., and just trying to identify the talent that is there? Because the thing is, and I mentioned this in an earlier show, I'm a firm believer, JT, everybody has a window, right? So long as you have the right to life, you're going to have a window. You're going to have a window of opportunity. There are kids, though, that their window is massive. And then there are kids where the window is about the size of a pinhole, right? And that's all you get. That's that window. And the best talent, and I stand by this, the best talent sometimes you will find in American collegiate sports isn't at the NCAA Division I level, isn't at the NCAA Division II, III, NAI level, NAI D1, D2. A lot of it sometimes is at the junior college level, because those kids really, either maybe because of grades or because of where they came from or home life or family situation or financial struggle, they cannot put themselves in a position to go to a big-time institution. What they can do, though, is go to San Jacinto Community College or any of these other community colleges that have a reputation of winning games in whatever various sports. And then luckily, because of the transfer portal and everything, they get an opportunity to climb the ranks. But that was something when I was talking to Tiago, and again, I said he was from Brazil. That's what he was saying. Is like, and I almost think he would be an interesting one to bring on and chat with, because he talked about how even at those lower levels, like the JUCO levels, a lot of those kids are extremely good. But because of where they came from, whether it be overseas, whether it be in the United States, they didn't really have time or the availability to be like, well, let me go through my options. You know what I mean? I have all of these opportunities available to me. Let me just weigh what I got here. You know what I mean? I could go, no. You get your one offer, you're going to go and you're going to make the most out of it. And so that's the part that I think we're trying to get to here. Those kids are the ones that we should be keying in on, because the JT, they're not playing because they necessarily love the sport. They're not playing because, well, they just enjoy going out and playing with their friends. They're playing for their life. For their life. And an opportunity to do something better with their life. And something that maybe they've never seen before. To set up their parents, to set up their family, to move them out of this neighborhood, to move them to the United States. And that was something he was mentioning. What if there's a day that comes where all of a sudden I'm in a position I can bring everyone across the pond? And now we can almost live. And we talk about how, old the American dream's dead. I don't believe that for a second, because these kids see the opportunity to play the sport at a high level in the United States, in a lot of ways, is the American dream. And one of the players, it's interesting. She was a tennis player, and it's not the same story, but she's from Hungary, right? And she doesn't want to go back home. You know, it just says there's just not a lot of opportunities and this, that, and the other thing. But she always talked about how she wants to get to the Olympics as a representative of a team, as a trainer, as something. She wants to. The Olympics is like her goal. And I'm like, for Hungary, right? She's like, no, I want to represent the United States.
Wow.
And so there's a sense of pride that comes with this.
I just wish we'd all have it. I wish
we
America would have more pride.
You
know, I'm sorry. I'm, you know, it's, you know, you watch every other country that plays in these Olympics or it participates in the Olympics or participates in the World Cup, and their players, athletes are standing at attention and singing the national anthem with, I mean, utter pride. You know, there is like no holding it back. I mean, and then you watch here, you know, and granted, if you watch every other country, they all look the same too, right? What I mean by that is that culturally they are all looking the same. Yeah. In the United States, the makeup is so much different, right? We are a very diverse society, and that's unbelievable.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
But we don't have this, like, you know, like this thing that's in us where when we're wearing that like Herb Brooks, you know, said, you know, with the U.S. that name on the back is not more important than the name on the front, right? Like the logo on the front, right? Like that American flag, right? That means something, regardless of what's happening in our world today and how much history or no history we have. You know, you just got to find a way to find that passion and that pride that you're wearing and you're playing for your country.
I think a lot of it sometimes is because we're comfortable now. We're comfortable. Yeah, a lot of us grew up comfortable.
Nate, it's entitlement. Comfortability. Yeah. It's real easy. With it. It's real easy for me to sit here and talk about the border. I live in Detroit, Michigan, and while you know there's a Canadian border right here, I don't live in Arizona. I don't see and feel what it's like to have people coming across the border in the hundreds of thousands a year. I don't live it. So for me to sit here and say, well, I don't agree or I do agree or and get all whatever about it. No, I mean, the people who are in Arizona should be able to do the speaking for me because they're the ones who live it. Now I have an opinion about it, right? And no different than anybody else in this world in another situation. We you know, and again, this lack of pride. They have no idea. Like people come to the United States because it's an unbelievable opportunity for them. That is why they come here. They don't come here for any other reason. They come because it's an unbelievable opportunity. And when it's no longer an unbelievable opportunity, they're not going to come here. Let's be honest. Right? You know, I mean, again, no one, I mean, there are some people that strive to get a Ford. That is like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted the Bronco. I've always wanted the Bronco. Maybe. I mean, there's some people, maybe.
Ford sucks.
But I actually,
anyways, go ahead.
People out there, when they strive for something, it's not like you're thinking about the average car, right? When you're thinking about what is it you want, your wildest dreams. If money was no object, what would you get? Lamborghini, Ferrari, right? You know, maybe a Tesla. I don't know. But I mean, like, you start to pick these super extravagant type things. The United States is that to so many countries.
Yeah.
So many people think of the United States as like that unobtainable thing it's like, if your wildest dreams, where would you go? Here. And there's this analogy where you take a frog and you throw it in a boiling pot of water, it jumps out, right? Immediately, because it's hot, right? But if you put the frog in the water and slowly start to heat it up, it'll cook to death. We are that slow boiling, well, the slow water cooking, right? What do you want to call it? Warming up. That's what we are. We don't realize what we're in right now, what we're sitting in, right?
Yeah.
How great it is.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We don't realize that. And my kids, I mean, they get it to an extent. They don't really get it. You know, who gets it? The United States of America is an unbelievable place. And if you don't realize that, then you don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other country like it on earth. We cannot compare ourselves to any other country because we are different. We have so many diverse cultures and opportunities here in this country. And that's what makes us what we are and who and it's a great thing about us. But
it's like we have multiple different countries all in one too.
It's also the detriment to us.
Yeah.
Because when you have so many different people coming in and so many people who think differently and are diverse and celebrate different things, it can also create a lot of internal conflict because you don't necessarily know, right? You go into Brazil, there's no doubt everyone loves soccer. There's no doubt, man. It's like I think it's soccer and swimming at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
With very little bathing suits. Like, I mean, if you go to Brazil, I haven't been to Brazil, but it's like they are like, what is the least amount of clothing I can provide while swimming? I'm gonna go wear it.
They're also in shape too, man. They eat fish and stuff and run around. They all got 6-packs and whatnot. So I mean, I get it. You're not gonna catch me in a Speedo out there, well, but by all means.
But like that's so it's we just need to find that. And again, it's not about like loving your country to the ends of the I'm not a firm believer in blind loyalty. Right. I don't think that we should all sit back and go, well, let's let that happen.
Right.
I still love my country. No.
Right.
Don't be blind, but loyal to our history and loyal to that. While our history has had its flaws, we have to learn from our history. Just like when it comes to the U.S. men's national team, what have we learned historically? What have we learned? What has our women's team learned? What are we learning from this? What are we learning right now in college sports with the transfer portal? What are we learning? We are learning that nobody is loyal. What we are learning is that it's all about me and not about the team. There's no longer, there's no INT. There's but yet somehow a lot of players are just leaving. I just saw something about a coach talking about like 50% of his teams are already considering entering the transfer portal. Like 50% of your team. The transfer portal is a great idea on a lot of levels. But in the one area what's not great is what's going to be the detriment to the portal. So it's loyalty is gone. We want to like dismiss and forget history, which you can't do.
I'm done after this show, by the way. I'm transferring to another network, so just let you know.
So you know, we don't have
a portal. In the portal too.
We don't have a portal, so you can't do that.
We don't have a media portal. Oh man,
Nate, for the sake of the show, I wanted to dive into disrespect because yesterday something happened. That I thought cool to talk about. Now, anyone who knows anything about Michigan State and Michigan, it's a tremendous rivalry. We've seen it time and time again. It's just like Ohio State. I actually feel like in the last couple of years that what happened at Michigan football games with Michigan State and how we've had helmets being thrown at players in the tunnel, that it's just only gotten like that much bigger of a rivalry. And I almost feel like on some level, we kind of diminish it because of the Ohio State thing. I almost feel like that rivalry over the years has been so, especially since on the football side where MSU is not playing very good football and they've been struggling and Michigan's been on the rise over the last 8 years. But, these types of things that happened yesterday, are they good for the sport or are they good for the rivalry or are they bad for the rivalry?
No, they're bad.
They're bad.
They're bad. They're here's the thing. There has to be a mutual level of respect. And the part about the Michigan State rivalry is that a lot of times, at least in recent years, you feel like that mutual level of respect has gone. And so, we're watching the clip right here, and I got the chance to see this yesterday. There's no excuse. And Dusty May addressed this after the game, and he goes, "Oh, I didn't know it was a tradition."
No, he didn't say that. What he said was that when is it wrong for me to stand on a logo when someone's taking a free throw with 25 seconds left?
I get it.
That was his response, which is different than saying I don't know the tradition. Which again, first off, it is your job as the head coach of a program to understand what you're walking into.
And
to be fair, you and I both know that at every college in America, especially at this level, there is a sheet that's literally on the table when you walk in the building that says, here's today's events. And it gives you a list of what's going to happen. Right. He knew it was senior day.
Yep.
He knew it was senior day. He knew what was going to happen at the end of the game. He knew it. His players knew it. All this was designed to do exactly what happened yesterday. Create chaos, create some animosity, which then in turn boils over now to the tournament. Right? Because he even made a comment. He goes, we're a distant second. He even said it. It's not even close. It's like, here's them, here's us.
UCLA, us, at Michigan.
He's even making this. It's a distance.
It's a mountain.
So he knows that by creating some of this anger, this angst, that might help his players in the Big Ten tournament.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think that was by design. I don't think Dusty May invited that. I think that was a case of two players standing at half court who did not want to move because they were instructed to move, and obviously they were mad because they just got walked.
You don't think it was by design?
No.
Okay.
I don't think Dusty May went out of his way to do that intentionally. Nor do I think Sharon Moore and
You're telling me as an athlete. You didn't know walking in my players.
The athlete doing it on purpose? No, absolutely.
Oh yeah, okay. I was
absolutely yes, okay. Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
There's a level of pettiness to this rivalry, and that's the part to people who aren't from Michigan. This is what it is. Okay, so the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry will always be, in my opinion, JT, the greatest in sports. It will always be because of the historical implications of that rivalry. Okay, and we can go into the history and the battle, and they get Toledo, and we get the UP, and then all that stuff. So there's a sense of vitriol that really comes with that rivalry, but I'm not surrounded by Ohio people every day. And I don't go to work and see Block O's. There's one Block O flag that I fly by pretty much every day of my life, and it makes me mad, and I want to go rip the thing down. But outside of that, I mean, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of stuff there. When you talk about Michigan and Michigan State, they're your neighbors, right? So it creates a sense of pettiness, and then really ever since Mike Hart coined the term little brother, I mean, it's kind of been a kettle cooker ever since, because you have Michigan, who prides themselves and wants to say they're the brand in college athletics, not just in the state of Michigan, but in the United States, which I think in a lot of ways they might lay claim to. I mean, they produced 100 Olympians this last summer, something like that. But when you start coining the term and throwing around the term little brother, you talk about Michigan State, the one thing they haven't been little brother in is basketball. No one has done this at a higher level and more consistently for longer than Tom Izzo has. He is the definition of a Hall of Famer. And so when they go into that environment, and believe me, the hate that State has for Michigan really is hard to describe. I mean, there are fans that will say, even if it's wheelchair pickleball, they will show up and cheer for Michigan State to beat Michigan. They will have a student section there to make sure that they beat Michigan, because there is that sense of they're our neighbor. They're right there. It's not good for the game. None of this is good for the game. The tunnel brawl wasn't good for the game. The tussle after the football game this year was not good for the game. That was not good for the game. Here's what I'll say, though. You can't cut it one way or the other. You can't say it's one particular team's fault one way or the other. But in this particular instance, at least not in the football sense, because you can go back and watch that film, but in this particular instance, yes, the players 100% did. 100% would not move off of the Spartan head. And they were instructed to, they were told to calmly, multiple times, mind you, hey, move. Okay? This is our tradition. This is what we do. There's 30-some seconds in the game. You're down by whatever it is. You're not going to come back. Okay? Move off the logo so we can do what we need to do. This comes down to, as a head coach, and I talked about it, right? You either, you either permit it or you coach it. That's it. You permit it or you coach it. And so when things like this happen, it's on the head coach. So it's on Dusty May to know in that moment, I got to get my guys off the Spartan head. I don't have a choice. And this is for respect. And it's not respect necessarily for the guy, it is respect for the seniors, but it's also respect for your coaching counterpart. And Dusty, you're a baby in this thing compared to what Tom Izzo has done, compared to where he's been. I mean, he just won the Big Ten outright, and he has an opportunity to go win another Big Ten championship. By the way, that's 11 Big Ten championships for Tom Izzo. And has an opportunity to go to another Final Four, maybe win another national championship. It'd be nice for him to win one more on his way out. Disrespect cuts both ways. That was last night. That was a poor display by Dusty May to not understand the situation that he was in.
That's why for me, when he even made that comment, like this comment, like, is it even like, I didn't know, being on the logo when they're taking free throws with 30 seconds.
How do you not
That's
know?
why part of me is almost like, just the way he explained it almost feels like on some level, maybe he was part of it. Again,
maybe, and maybe I'm wrong by saying all that, but how do you
again,
not know?
I don't
Welcome
know.
to the Big Ten, dude. This is how it goes. That is the brand in the Big Ten. And we can talk about football. Okay, Sparty can have 6-6 seasons every year. I don't care. We'll continue to beat them every single season and hang banners, and they can talk about cheating, whatever. We can get into that. But they are the brand in basketball. You need to know that going in. You either beat them or you get off the logo. And you see the winged helmet behind me. I come from a Michigan family, and I'll be the first to tell you, playing dumb in that situation does not work. You either coach it or you permit it. And I agree with you, JT. I think he had his hand in it in one way or the other. I don't know to what degree, but it certainly felt that way.
So since we're on the topic of unsportsmanlike or disrespectful moments, why not take a look at a number of different sports moments here where you can just kind of see, like, just, there's one right there. That's a goalie right there. Yep.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Remember just awful. Just that hurts you in a lot of different ways.
Oh boy, what do we have here? Oh, an elbow.
Yeah,
DeMarcus Cousins.
I know there's one here. Little helmet kick right there. I mean, this is good. This is a
man,
right?
Yeah, this is a classic, right? This was Thanksgiving, wasn't it?
Yeah, got ejected. Remember?
Yep. Man, and Ndamukong Suh. I think that. Oh yeah. Hey, you're in the baseline. You're on the baseline.
I just want to find the one where was it not Deion Sanders? Who was the one that ran to the? Remember that? This is dancing on you don't dance on a team's logo.
No, yeah, you don't do that. You don't do that. And that's the other thing, JT, is like the logo is sacred. Like, you do something to the logo, you're going to pay the consequences.
I want to know. I want to find the one with the Dallas Cowboys who was it? Was it Randy Moss? You know what I'm talking about? Was it? I'm always forgetting which one it was.
Oh, the one where he crawls up to the goalpost and.
No, he ran. He scores a touchdown, then runs right to the middle of the Dallas, like the Cowboy star.
Oh yeah. I remember.
And
that.
Plants like a flag, basically.
This compilation might be a little too recent. I don't know. They should have included that one in it. Yeah, it looks like they didn't include that one in it, but I wonder if you'd be able to find it. But yeah, and it's funny because you can go back and even in rivalry weekend, in football this last year, they have a lit. Everybody was fighting, and it felt like every single game, and it's because everybody wanted to disrespect the logo at center field.
Oh, here it is.
That's something you don't do.
Yes, there it is.
Oh boy,
right. San Francisco versus Dallas. Yep.
Yeah.
It was Terrell Owens. But so yeah, I mean,
yeah, and I think there's a level, right? Like, oh, is this the backflip one?
Oh yeah. Disrespectful.
That's funny. It is that it's funny because I've talked to people about, who have been in the basketball game. And obviously I know the the radio commenter at Michigan State. He used to talk about Caitlin Clark. This person we've built her up to be, this persona that she has of, oh, she's the embodiment of class and she does everything the right way and she's just so perfect. Bull honky. Okay? Would you like to know the people who say bull honky? The ones who have competed against Caitlin Clark. Would you like to know what she told the Michigan State coach after she made a 3 last year? To sit down and shut up. An opposing coach she said that to. Okay? So I get it. Right? The media likes to build up their certain people to be a certain way. But I almost said this to him, and he agreed to it too. I go, if you're good enough, I guess you can say those things. If you're that level, if you are a game changer, a world changer, a dynamic changer, I don't think it's fair that she gets all the praise while some of these other athletes are looked at as, dirty or whatever word you want to call it. I think people are just maybe showing what they don't want to show, but they're saying the silent part out loud, if you will. But there's a certain level of, if you're good enough, sometimes you get to be that way a little bit, but you better hope that you're good enough. You better hope that you're good enough, because not everybody gets to be that way. Peter says, when I worked at Wrigley, a Cardinals fan tried to pour bleach on the ivy in the bleachers, and I caught him about to pour it. Good, Peter. I hope you brought him to the south side of Chicago and dropped him off with nowhere to bring him out, so he could just find his own way out. No, same. Yeah, that's a joke.
Should have dropped on the same block as where Liv and all the characters from Shameless.
Yeah.
No problem.
I hope he brought him to O Block or whatever they call him and just let him figure it out. No, that's terrible. Peter, I didn't know you worked at Wrigley.
That's pretty
Goodness
cool.
Gracious, man.
Yeah.
Never talk about getting me tickets. But anyways, no, it's yeah. Go ahead.
It's 9:52, so we got about 8 minutes left here in this show. Really exciting stuff that happened here last week. So if you didn't notice, I'm in a different background, and this is where I'll be moving forward. So we have moved in fully now to our space here in Shelby. We had a smaller room, but now we have we have some significant space that we get to work with now, and I'm currently in our office space, and off to my left over here is where our control room is, and then off in front of me in an outside room we have our sound stage with our green screen and then our remote pods. We are developing this room. We did that so basically while you were gone last week, Nathan, Wednesday through Friday. We took that time to really kind of build out the space and get things ready for this upcoming week and in the future weeks as we continue to elevate our game. So really, really excited about that. It's really cool. We did a pregame show on Friday night for the Chihuahua Savage game and Kansas City Comets. Neil Rule and Dan Stickrat did that. So that was really kind of a cool thing to be able to do in that environment. We're going to do that again this Friday with you on the call, right, for the San Diego Sockers again, coming up here on Friday night at 10 o'clock Eastern. Oh boy. But yeah, so that's late. It's so late. It's 10 o'clock at night stuff, man. It's like
those late night drives back from Detroit, though. Those will be nostalgic someday.
I won't consider that late night. That's going to be early morning for you.
Early morning. All right.
We'll
those are nostalgic to me, though, man. I'm going to remember those forever. I still remember driving home once we got back from Columbus when I went down with you guys that one day, man. That was 2 Red Bulls and a prayer. But hey, I got back and it is all good. And the thankful thing is the worst thing about Detroit, Michigan. I will say this, JT. It's not a bad place. It's not a dangerous place. There's a lot of places you can go that are great in Detroit. Good food, good people, good sports, good all that. The drivers in your city are maniacs. they all need to be locked in a psych ward and never released. Okay, I don't know how you can go 125 in a 60. All right, I don't get it. Okay, you're putting everybody's you know what in the jackpot when you do that. But fortunately, when it's that late, you don't have to deal with a ton of that. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but it's just gonna be fun. And our high school ranking show is coming back here starting on Sunday night. We made that announcement yesterday on social media. We'll continue to post that throughout out the week, and we're excited about that. And new hosts. You know, we have 2 women who will be handling that along with Dan Stickrat here starting on Sunday. Kennedy Broadwell will lead the preseason watch list here on Sunday night, and then Patty Cesarini will be our host for that ranking show season starting here April through May. So a really cool lineup of hosts that we'll have on, and we're excited about that. I really felt, that the girls' game needed to have a woman host, a female host. And so that's what we're doing. Obviously, Dan Stickrat, we can't replace Dan with his knowledge. So he will always be in that role. But
absolutely,
it's really cool. So that starts on Sunday night at 8:00 right here on NSN. I think in total this week, we've got, looking at the schedule, we got a bunch of MASL games starting off here tonight as well. But I want to say we have in total this week 8 games. That's 9 games. No, sorry, I'm gonna back this up. That's wrong. We have more than 8. We have 12. I lied. 12 games this week. So,
yeah, I wanted to say this really quick. Come to Chicago, then Nate. I was in Chicago last year. Went to a Cubs game. I think they played the Blue Jays. Shota Imanaga was on the mound, so it was.
I have not been to a Cubs game. I have been to a White Sox game.
Gotta go to a Cubs game, man. Gotta go to a Cubs game. Cultural experience. Anyways, I wanted to fit this in. I know I didn't. I should have started off the show this way. And I don't know, JT. I don't know if you know who this is. But he big in the Detroit sports scene. They were talking about him on ESPN. Obviously, heavy hearts this past week. Andy Isaac ended up passing away. Long-time Lions sports fanatic. Did not like the Bears. FTB, as he would have pretty much in all of his posts. He coined the term Fatterday, #Fatterday, because he would go around to all the different good eateries in the Detroit, the Michigan area, and he would write about them. And just I never got the opportunity to meet Andy. And it's one of those people that unfortunately, I never got to meet him because he was so passionate about Detroit-based sports. He was so passionate about what he did. And from all accounts that I heard, he was one of the nicest individuals that ever lived. And as cancer would typically go, it typically targets the people who are least deserving. And he was fighting with that for a long time, and passed away this past week. And I think everybody's kind of feeling the effects of it. And I know, specifically the people I know in the media world who have had face-to-face interactions with Andy, really going through it, because it's not fair. None of it is fair, and it never will be fair. And I guess it highlights the importance of being nice to your fellow man and living every day, and not, taking things too seriously, and just trying to be the most positive force that you can be. But before it's your time, because it really does have an impact on people. And Andy 100% had that impact on everyone that he came across. Yeah, there it is, Fatterday. So, he was, again, no one deserves what he had to go through, but to continue to fight through what he was going through and still do what he did and have the impact he had, not just on Detroit sports. I mean, but Barstool that recognized him. ESPN had something on him. He had a worldwide impact in the kind of person that he was, in the way that he carried himself. And so, rest in peace to Andy. And like I said, I never got to meet him in this life. Hopefully in the next one I can, because he had a big time impact on a lot of people that I know and respect and work with. So rest in peace to the legend, and hopefully we can keep the Fatterday tradition alive.
Just so you know, though, my wife and my kids and I, we've talked about this, right? And so we talk about like what visions of heaven would be like. And I'll tell you this right now, man, like this cheeseburger that he's eating right here, that is my vision of what heaven would be like in my head. Like, look at that cheeseburger is unbelievable, man. I don't know what I don't know what's even on that. It looks like
he's got a list of different places in Detroit, and
brisket,
I think on Twitter, yeah.
You know, like I was just telling this. I'm like, okay, think of heaven, right? What could heaven be, right? It could be like, okay, endless Slurpees that never change. That just always like that smooth, right? Like that,
right?
Like, you know, obviously I don't want to take away from the aspects of what heaven could be, but I'm like, it's like, you know, like, you know, the TV show that you love watching, it never ends, right? Like it just always keeps going, right? It never ends.
Right.
Like
right.
Friends has continued on. Like,
yep.
Like
it'll
that
never go.
Yeah. Anyways,
that's Andy's legend.
Andy's a legend.
Yep.
Hey, well, we appreciate you stopping by on this Monday morning. Episode 41 in the books. You've been watching Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network. We want to thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like us, and share us with your friends and family. Be back at this again tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on YouTube and Roku. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow. This has been a presentation of the National Soccer Network.